I'm going to walk through a quick mobility routine. My back is tight, my hamstrings are tight, so we're really going to focus on posterior chain activation. The posterior chain, if you don't know, is the back side of your body. Anterior is the front, posterior is backside, so posterior chain is basically the kinetic chain that connects through the backside of your body. So anyways, we're trying to unlock that, activate that. I'm going to start with some simple hinges. All right, so I'm focused on pushing my waist back while keeping a flat back. So you don't want to be curved over. You want to keep a nice flat back, pushing the waist back. The further you can get the waist, the more you're going to feel the stretch in the hamstrings down here. I like to start with my hands crossed over my chest, but once I ease into it, I'll start pushing forward and pulling back. Pushing and pulling. Now this push is like an active push, like almost as if you're pushing a heavy door open or something like that. The pull, same thing. A heavy fridge door or the wind's pulling the door closed. So really activate all the muscles on the out and the in. All right, now I'm going to stay in the hinge forward position and I'm going into the founder. This is an exercise created by Goodman. He's a chiropractor. I've used these exercises with a lot of my clients who have little back tweaks or any tightness in their posterior chain, really. Hip issues, back issues, hamstring issues. I found that the founder helps with all that. So it starts 15 seconds in this bottom position, hinge forward. You really want to focus on expanding your chest and kind of think about stretching out your spine. In the back, I'm pushing my waist back, which is kind of stretching my tailbone away from me. And then in the front, I'm pulling my chest open, which is kind of pulling on the top of my spine. So it's hard to describe, but try to feel what I'm feeling. I'm essentially feeling a decompression by stretching out my spine. Tailbone back, chest forward. All right, after 15 seconds, it's probably been more than 15 seconds already, but you're going to come up, bringing the hands right up the middle. Just follow along with me. Now in this, you really want to focus on your shoulders. When you're down here, it's easy to keep the shoulders in the right position. They should be pressed all the way down towards your butt, but you want to keep them pressed backwards as you raise up your hands. So you don't want to be reaching forward with your shoulders, doing that kind of movement. You want to keep them nice, pressed down, keeping that chest nice open wide. Another trick I find to help keep the chest open in this position is the thumbs. If they're facing forwards, or if they're facing down rather, it probably means that your shoulders are rolling forwards. If you pull your shoulders back and bring the thumbs either pointing up or even out, palms facing up, then you can be sure that your chest is most likely open. Hold this position. I know sometimes in the foundation training, they hold a bowl of soup, and that essentially keeps the hands in that same position. Not down, but thumbs up, basically. It's either way. We go down for 15 more seconds. You should really be feeling it's not tightness in the lower back, but there's little muscles, the erector spinae, and all the little muscles back there. They should all be activating. It gets pretty tiring if you're holding this position correctly, especially when you're holding it in longer iterations like I am. You want to do it for at least 15 seconds, but as you get more comfortable, you can go up to 30 seconds and 30 seconds. Beyond that, you can, of course, hold it for longer than 30 seconds, but in my opinion, you kind of reach the area of diminishing returns once you go beyond 30 seconds. All right, so from here, so that was the first stretch, just to activate the posterior chain, the small muscles in the lower back, the glutes, and the hamstrings. Now we're going to focus on the adductors, which are the muscles on the inside of the thigh, and depending on where you look, what books you read, the hip flexors in the front are also included in the adductors overall, even though there's only a couple muscles, the adductor longus and whatnot, that are actually called adductors. But anyways, when I say adductors, I'm talking about kind of the anterior side of the hip joint here. So we've got the adductors on the inside here, but also we've got those hip flexors. So we're really focusing on activating those. The reason we're going to focus on activating those is they kind of support the lower back region from the front. So the hamstrings and glutes, erector spinae, those are the muscles that are going to, on the posterior side, the back side, that are going to support the lower back when you get into advanced movements, deadlifts and whatnot. But just as important are the muscles in the front, because you want to be protected from both sides, the anterior and the posterior side. So anyways, one thing you can do is the splits. I have not been training my splits that well, but I am going to do that a little bit today. So I'm only going as low as I can while keeping my knees pointed outwards. As soon as my knees start curving in like this, that means I don't really have the strength in my adductors to support that position. So you can see for me, I'm honestly a little tight. So I think on a good day I might be able to get down a little lower, but this is where I'm feeling that range today. And I'm really squeezing the ground together with my feet. There's too much friction for me to actually pull my feet together, but I'm squeezing and thus activating, especially the adductors on the inside here, but I'm also feeling it in the front in my hip flexors and whatnot. To add to this, you can start pushing the waist back. The further you get the back, the more you're going to feel the stretch in those adductors there. I say stretch, but it's when you're holding it in isometric movement like this, it's somewhere in between a stretch and a strength routine. So it's not just a stretch. Really, this is mobility training. And I've been kind of mentally debating how I want to explain to my clients the difference between strength, mobility, and stretching. Strength work is where you're primarily building muscle and building power within your existing ranges of motion. Mobility is when you're kind of building strength in extended ranges of motion. So you're not going to be doing heavy weights for mobility work, but you are going to be getting in awkward positions like this and holding them for a long period of time, or trying to do some sort of complex movement that requires you to use stabilizing strength. And then pure stretching is just range of motion, basically. So that'd be like, like a hamstring stretch or something like that, where you're reaching down to touch your toes. You're not really building that much strength. The focus is really building the range of motion. So strength training builds muscle. Stretching builds range of motion. Mobility is sort of that happy medium in the middle, and that's what we're working on today. So again, I'm really tight right now, so I'm kind of staying in this position for a little longer than I might normally do. Keep in mind, my knees are twisting out as my feet are pulling together the whole time. That's really the key, and that's how you're going to feel those adductors burning like I'm feeling them burning right now. All right, pushing the waist back. We're going to go through some windmills. I'm just going to do 3 on each side. You're going to lift one hand at a time, really trying to keep the waist as far back as you can. As you lift each hand, watch your thumb of the hand that's raising with your eyes. And that's going to keep your spine in the proper position throughout the movement. Weight should be mostly in the heels, although you do want to be kind of anchoring in with your big toes. And that's going to ensure that your glutes and really your entire posterior chain are activated. Come there. Ooh, shake it out. And I'm really tight today. All right, last one we're going to do. This is kind of for the knees, but and it's also for the backside hip flexors. We're going to get into this position. If you need to, and a lot of you probably will, you want to elevate the front foot. The further you elevate the front foot, or even just the front heel, the more forward you're going to get. In this position, this is the ATG split squat, popularized by Ben Patrick, who's kind of the expert on knees. But the goal is to get the front knee over the front toe. The thinking behind this is that the further the front knee gets over the front toe, the more unstable that knee is, which in theory sounds scary, especially if you had knee issues, which I had an ACL surgery on this side, so I'm always get a little squeamish with knee issues. But to kind of take it one step further, the human body is an anti-fragile system. So what that means is if you expose it to stress, it gets stronger. So a fragile system, if you expose it to stress, it gets weaker. A robust system, you expose it to stress, it stays the same. So that'd be like a fragile building crashes down in an earthquake. A robust building stands still in an earthquake. Anti-fragile is the next level. You expose it to stress and it gets stronger. So it's most of the real world applications of anti-fragile systems are life. Biological systems, including the human body, are anti-fragile systems. You expose it to stress, it gets stronger. And so I'll go from a side angle just to give you guys a different look as I switch legs. But yeah, as an anti-fragile system, what you want to do is push the limits in controlled situations. Right now, this is a controlled situation. I know exactly what's going to happen. I know exactly what it's going to feel like as I go down. But let's say I was in a sports game or something like that, and I go for a deep lunge when I'm trying to kick a ball or whatever. That'd be an uncontrolled situation. And so the goal, as I'm trying to train myself as an anti-fragile system, it's when in controlled situations, I want to kind of push the limits. You got to know your own limits, but stay within the boundaries, but push the limits and build reps in these unstable positions, but controlled situations, so that if and when the time comes that you get into these extended positions in uncontrolled situations, you've got the strength to support yourself. Because it's not, most of the time, injuries are going to happen in uncontrolled situations, not in controlled situations. So if you're training intelligently, you should be trying to push yourself in controlled situations. Again, you got to know the limits, but take advantage of your anti-fragility and build strength to bulletproof yourself. So again, two things are going on here. One, I'm training stability in the front knee, and two, I'm stretching out the back hip flexors. So this side here for a second. So as I come forward, I want to keep my shoulders open and down, same position as earlier when I was doing the founder. That position is key for the shoulders, but that's an idea to meditate on in a separate video. But yeah, bringing the knee forward, chest up, shoulders open, and then pull the hips forward. The tendency is going to be to kind of twist to the open side, but you want to really pull your hip socket to try to keep it square with the position that you're facing. And that's how you're going to get the stretch in those hip flexors, which I really need today. A couple more on this side, and then I'll be done my mobility routine for the day. I just did heavy squats, and so that's why I'm a little tight, my legs, my glutes, and my hip flexors. So it's good to take advantage of a post-workout stretching routine. I know there's some research that shows it's slightly more advantageous to go through a mobility routine right after working out because your muscles are already warm, there's already blood flowing, whereas you kind of have to take a few minutes to get that blood flowing to get the same effect from a different stretching routine, so it takes a little bit longer. You kind of get the first few minutes out of the way. But anyways, that's my mobility routine for the day. Tune back in for more.